Some secrets change everything. Some letters rewrite your entire life. And sometimes, the greatest victory happens off the racetrack. When seven-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton began packing up his Monaco apartment after announcing his retirement, he expected to find old trophies and faded racing memories. What he didn't expect was a dusty shoebox wedged behind his 2008 World Championship trophy. Inside that box, beneath yellowed race programs and forgotten photos, lay a sealed envelope that would shatter everything he thought he knew about his past. The elegant handwriting belonged to Elena Vasquez, his college girlfriend from 2004 to 2006, the woman he'd loved deeply but left behind when fame came calling. The letter was dated March 15, 2006, the day after their breakup. The day Elena discovered she was carrying a secret that would change 3 lives forever. A.S. Lewis held that envelope in his trembling hands. He had no idea that reading it would lead him on the most important race of his life. Not for a championship, but for a family he never knew existed. What Lewis discovered in that letter, and what he chose to do about it, proves that sometimes the most powerful victories happen when you're brave enough to let love win. This is the story of how a hidden message became a bridge across 20 years of separation, and how one man's decision to choose family over fame melted the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. The Monaco sun streamed through the tall windows of Lewis Hamilton's apartment, casting golden light across the boxes scattered on his living room floor. After 17 years in Formula One, he was finally packing up his life. Not for another move between racing seasons, but for something bigger, something final. Lewis sat cross-legged on the marble floor, surrounded by memories. Trophies gleamed in the afternoon light. Photos from podium celebrations lay scattered around him like golden leaves. His 7 World Championship trophies stood proud on their shelf, but even they would soon be packed away. That he picked up a photo from the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix. The moment that changed everything. The day he became world champion for the first time. He was so young then, just 23. His smile was wide and full of dreams. Now, at 39, that same smile felt different. Wiser. Maybe sadder too. Right then, Lewis said to himself, reaching for another box, "Let's get this done." The trophy room had always been his favorite space. Floor-to-ceiling shelves held not just his racing prizes, but gifts from fans, artwork from children, and medals from his charity work. Each item told a story of his journey from a young boy in Stevenage to the most successful Formula One driver in history. He started with the top shelf, carefully wrapping each trophy in bubble wrap. The 2019 British Grand Prix trophy felt heavy in his hands. He remembered that race. The crowd had been so loud when he won at Silverstone. His home race. His people cheering him on. As he moved to the middle shelf, something caught his eye. Behind his 2008 World Championship trophy, something was wedged in the corner. A small shoebox, covered in dust. Lewis frowned. He didn't remember putting anything there. He pulled the box out carefully. It was light brown cardboard, old and worn at the edges. The dust made him sneeze as he carried it to his coffee table. With gentle hands, he opened the lid. Inside, old race programs lay yellowed with age. Photos of him from his early McLaren days smiled back at him. His hair was different then, shorter. His face was thinner, hungrier. These were from 2004, 2005, maybe 2006. The years when everything was just beginning. Lewis dug deeper into the box. More photos. A ticket stub from the 2005 Monaco Grand Prix. A small racing helmet keychain. And then, at the bottom, something that made his heart stop. A white envelope. His name was written on the front in handwriting he recognized immediately. Elegant letters in blue ink, slightly slanted to the right. The same handwriting that used to leave him little notes in his racing gloves. The same handwriting that had once written, "I love you," on his bathroom mirror in lipstick. Elena. Lewis's hands began to shake as he lifted the envelope. Below his name, in that same beautiful script, were more words. "Open when you're ready to remember what really matters." It was signed simply, Elena. Elena Vasquez. He hadn't thought about her in years. Well, that wasn't true. He thought about her sometimes late at night, when the hotel rooms felt too empty and the victories felt too hollow. She was his girlfriend during his early Formula One days. They had met at a party in London in 2004, when he was just a rookie. Driver with big dreams and bigger fears, she was studying journalism at Cambridge then. Smart, funny, and completely unimpressed by his racing career. She loved him for who he was, not what he might become. They dated for 2 years, from 2004 to 2006. The best 2 years of his life, if he was being honest. But fame had come fast. The pressure grew stronger every day. His team told him to focus. No distractions, no relationships, just racing, just winning. So he had chosen his career over love. He had broken up with Elena in March 2006, just before his breakthrough season. Lewis stared at the envelope. The seal was still intact. She had written this letter but never sent it. Somehow, it had ended up in his trophy room, hidden behind his first world championship. But how? When? He tried to remember Elena's last visit to Monaco. It would have been around the time they broke up. She had come to collect some things she had left at his apartment. He was at the factory that day, preparing for the season. She must have hidden this letter then, hoping he would find it someday. But why now? Why after all these years? Lewis looked at the envelope again. His phone buzzed on the coffee table, but he ignored it. Everything else could wait. This moment felt important, sacred. Even he was about to open the letter when his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. I heard you might be cleaning house. Some things are meant to stay buried. A friend. Lewis stared at the message. Hey, chill ran down his spine. Who could have sent this? And how did they know he was packing? His apartment was private, secure. Only his closest friends knew about his plans to move. That he looked back at the envelope in his hands, then at the threatening message on his phone. Someone didn't want him to read Elena's letter. But why? What could she have written that someone wanted to keep hidden? Lewis Hamilton had never backed down from a challenge. Not on the racing track, and not in life. He set his phone aside and carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded in half. As he unfolded it, he saw it was dated March 15, 2006. The day after they had broken up, he began to read, and his world changed forever. Lewis's hands trembled as he unfolded the letter. Elena's handwriting was as beautiful as he remembered, but he could see where her tears had smudged some of the words. The paper was slightly yellow now, aged by 18 years of hiding. March 15, 2006. My dearest Lewis, you ended things between us yesterday. You said you need to focus on racing. You said love would only slow you down. I understand. I've always understood your dreams, even when they take you away from me. But there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you yesterday, but I couldn't find the words. I couldn't bear to see the fear in your eyes when your whole future is just beginning. Lewis paused reading. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. He looked around his empty apartment, as if Elena might suddenly appear. But there was only silence and the distant sound of Monaco traffic below. I'm pregnant, Lewis. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. Lewis dropped the letter and stood up, pacing across his living room. Pregnant. Elena had been pregnant. When they broke up, how had he not known? How had he not seen the signs? He picked up the letter again, his hands shaking even more now. I found out 2 weeks ago. I've been trying to find the right time to tell you, but there never seemed to be a good moment. You were so stressed about the upcoming season, so worried about proving yourself to McLaren. I didn't want to add to your pressure. I've made a decision. I'm going to have the baby and raise it alone. You don't need to worry about us. You don't need to choose between your dreams and your family. I'm choosing for both of us. Lewis sat down hard on his couch. Elena had made this impossible choice alone. She had protected his career by sacrificing their relationship and taking on the responsibility of parenthood by herself. The weight of her sacrifice hit him like a tidal wave. I know this might sound selfish, but I want you to know that I'm happy. Scared, but happy. This baby is part of you, Lewis. The best part of you. Your kindness, your determination, your beautiful smile. This child will carry all of that. I'm going back to Barcelona to live with my family. My mother will help me raise the baby. I'll finish my journalism degree by correspondence. I'll make sure our child knows who their father is. I'll make sure they're proud of you. Lewis wiped his eyes. He hadn't realized he was crying. Elena's words painted a picture of a future he had never imagined. A child. His child. Growing up in Barcelona, watching his races on television, maybe. Wondering why their father had never come to meet them. I don't want your money, Lewis. I don't want fame or attention. I just want our baby to have a good life. I want you to have the racing career you've dreamed of since you were a boy. Maybe, someday, when you're ready, when your career is stable, we can talk. But for now, this is goodbye. I'm hiding this letter in your trophy room. Behind the trophy you'll win someday. I know you'll win a world championship, Lewis. I believe in you more than you believe in yourself. When you do win, and when you're ready to remember what really matters beyond racing, maybe you'll find this letter. Lewis looked toward his trophy room. Elena had been right. She had hidden the letter behind his 2008 World Championship trophy, his first. She had somehow known exactly where to put it. I love you, Lewis Hamilton. I will always love you. And so will our baby. Forever yours, Elena P.S. I've included a photo. This is our daughter, Sophia Elena Hamilton Vasquez. She was born on November 18, 2006. She has your eyes and my stubborn spirit. She's perfect. Lewis's hands shook as he searched the envelope for the photo. There it was, a small color photograph that took his breath away. A tiny baby girl with dark hair and bright eyes, sleeping peacefully in a pink blanket. On the back, Elena had written, Sophia Elena Hamilton Vasquez, 6 months old, May 2007. She loves watching cars on TV. Lewis stared at the photo for a long time. This was his daughter. He had a daughter. She would be 18 years old now, probably in university. Did she still love cars? Did she know about racing? Did she know about him? He thought about all the years that had passed, all the races he had won, all the trophies he had collected, all the lonely nights in hotel rooms around the world. All this time, he had a daughter growing up in Barcelona, a daughter who might have been proud of his victories. Elena's letter had mentioned an address, 47 Carrer de Mallorca, Barcelona. Lewis grabbed his phone and immediately started searching for the address online. He needed to find them. He needed to meet Sophia. He needed to apologize to Elena for 18 years of absence. But as he typed Elena's name into the search bar, his phone started buzzing with missed calls. The screen showed 12 missed calls from his manager, Angela Cullen. Something was wrong. Angela never called so many times unless there was an emergency. Lewis was about to call Angela back when another text message appeared from that same unknown number. Told you some things should stay buried. Check the news in 1 hour. Your secret daughter is about to become very public. Hope you're ready for the storm. Lewis's blood ran cold. Someone knew about Sophia. Someone had been watching him, waiting for him to find the letter. But who? And how did they know about Elena and his daughter? He looked at the photo of baby Sophia again, then at Elena's letter. Someone was threatening to expose his family to the world. After 18 years of privacy, after 18 years of Elena protecting their secret, someone was about to destroy everything. Lewis grabbed his laptop and started searching for flights to Barcelona. He had to find Elena and Sophia before the story broke. He had to protect them, just like Elena had protected him all these years. As he typed, his phone rang again. This time it was Angela. Lewis, where are you? Angela's voice was panicked. The tabloids are calling. They're saying they have explosive information about your personal life. They're talking about a secret family. What's going on? Lewis looked at the letter in his hands, then at the photo of his daughter. Angela, he said quietly, I need you to cancel everything. I'm going to Barcelona. There's someone I need to meet. Someone I should have met 18 years ago. Lewis, what are you talking about? What's in Barcelona? Lewis smiled sadly as he looked at Sophia's photo one more time. My daughter, Angela. I'm going to meet my daughter. Angela arrived at Lewis's Monaco apartment within 20 minutes, her face pale with worry. She had been his manager for 6 years and had never seen him lie this. Lewis was usually calm under pressure, but now, he was pacing around his living room like a caged animal. Show me the letter, Angela said, sitting down on his couch. Lewis handed her Elena's letter and the photo of baby Sophia. Angela read in silence, her eyes growing wider with each line. When she finished, she looked up at Lewis with a mixture of shock and understanding. Lewis, this is incredible. You have a daughter. Angela studied the photo carefully. She looks just like you. Those eyes, that smile. I have to find them, Angela, before those tabloid reporters do. Lewis grabbed his passport from his desk drawer. Someone leaked this story. Someone who knew I would find the letter today. Angela's phone buzzed with another call from a reporter. She declined it immediately. We need to be smart about this. If we rush to Barcelona without a plan, we might make things worse for Elena and Sophia. But Lewis was already booking a flight on his phone. The letter has an address, 47 Cara de Mallorca, Barcelona. I'm going there tonight. Lewis, that letter is from 2006. They might not live there anymore. Lewis stopped typing and looked at Angela. She was right. 18 years was a long time. Elena and Sofia could be anywhere now. They might have moved to another city, another country even. But he had to try. 2 hours later, Lewis was on a private jet to Barcelona. Angela had insisted on coming with him, worried about what he might find. During the flight, Lewis stared out the window and thought about all the Spanish Grand Prix races he had won. He had been to Barcelona dozens of times, but Elena and Sofia had been living there the whole time. So close, yet so far away. The plane landed at Barcelona airport just after sunset. Lewis hired a car and drove through the familiar streets toward Park Güell, where Elena's address was located. His heart pounded with every turn. What would he say when he saw Elena? What would Sofia think of him? The building at 47 Cara de Mallorca was old but well-maintained, with colorful balconies and flower boxes in the windows. Lewis parked across the street and stared up at the apartments. Elena could be behind one of those windows right now. Sofia could be doing homework or watching television. He climbed the narrow stairs to the 3rd floor, where Elena's apartment number was located. The hallway smelled like cooking spices and old wood. Lewis stood outside apartment 3B for several minutes, trying to find the courage to knock. Finally, he raised his hand and knocked 3 times. Footsteps approached the door, and Lewis held his breath. The door opened to reveal an elderly Spanish woman with kind eyes and gray hair. "See?" she asked. Then her eyes went wide with recognition. "Dios mío, you're Lewis Hamilton." Lewis managed a small smile. "Yes, I am. I'm looking for Elena Vasquez. She used to live here." Elena and her daughter Sofia. The woman's face changed immediately. The joy of meeting a famous person was replaced by sadness. She introduced herself as Mrs. Rodriguez and invited Lewis inside her apartment. "Elena moved away 2 years ago," Mrs. Rodriguez said in careful English. After the accident, Lewis felt his stomach drop. "What accident?" Mrs. Rodriguez led him to her small living room, where photos of the building's residents covered one wall. She pointed to a picture of Elena with a beautiful teenage girl who looked exactly like Lewis. "That's Sofia," Mrs. Rodriguez said proudly. "Such a good girl. Always helping her mother. Always studying hard." "Please, tell me about the accident," Lewis said, his voice barely a whisper. Mrs. Rodriguez sat down heavily in her chair. "It happened in early 2022. Elena was driving home from work one night. Another car hit her. Very bad crash. She was in the hospital for months." Lewis's hands started shaking. Is Elena okay?" "She survived, thank God, but her legs were badly hurt. She uses a wheelchair now. The doctors said she might never walk again." Mrs. Rodriguez wiped her eyes. "Sofia took care of everything. That brave girl quit her job to help her mother recover." Lewis felt like he couldn't breathe. While he was racing around the world, winning trophies and earning millions, Elena was fighting for her life in a hospital bed. And Sofia, his daughter, who he had never met, was sacrificing her own future to care for her mother. "Where did they go?" Lewis asked. "London," Mrs. Rodriguez replied. Sofia found better doctors there for Elena's rehabilitation. They moved to be closer to the hospital. Mrs. Rodriguez disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a small address book. She wrote down an address in London and handed it to Lewis. "Elena never stopped following your races," she said. "She would watch every Sunday, cheering for you. And Sofia, she was so proud when you won your world championships." "That's my papa," she would say quietly, when she thought no one was listening. Lewis's eyes filled with tears. "Sofia knows about me?" "Of course she knows." Elena made sure Sofia understood who her father was. She showed her every newspaper article, every victory. Sofia grew up knowing her papa was a champion, but she never asked Elena to contact you. She said you were busy saving the world, one race at a time. Mrs. Rodriguez showed Lewis more photos of Sofia growing up. Pictures of her at school, volunteering at a local hospital, working on a small go-kart in the building's garage. In every photo, Sofia was smiling with Lewis's exact same smile. "She's studying to be a nurse," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "She wants to help people, like the doctors who helped her mother. She's very smart, very kind." Elena raised her well. Lewis studied the photos carefully. This was his daughter. This beautiful, caring young woman was his child, and he had missed her entire childhood. He had missed her first steps, her first words, her graduation, everything. "I have to go to London," Louis said, standing up. "I have to see them." Mrs. Rodriguez nodded and walked him to the door. As he was leaving, she grabbed his arm gently. "Louis," she said, "Elena never blamed you for leaving. She always said you were following your dreams, and she was proud of you for that. But now that you know about Sophia, don't wait any longer. That girl has been without her father for 18 years. She needs you now." Louis hugged Mrs. Rodriguez and thanked her for taking care of Elena and Sophia all these years. As he walked back to his car, his phone buzzed with another threatening text message. "Turn back now, or everyone learns the truth about the accident. Some secrets destroy lives." Louis stared at the message, then looked back up at the apartment building where his daughter had grown up. Someone was trying to scare him away from his family. Someone who knew about the accident, about Elena's injuries, about everything. But Lewis Hamilton had never run from a fight. He had faced down the best drivers in the world on the most dangerous tracks. He wasn't going to let some anonymous coward keep him from meeting his daughter. That he got in his car and started driving toward the airport. London was only a 2-hour flight away. By tomorrow morning, he would finally meet Sophia Elena Hamilton Vasquez. His daughter, his family, the threatening messages could wait. His daughter had waited 18 years. That was long enough. Lewis's flight landed at London Heathrow at 7 in the morning. He had not slept during the short flight from Barcelona. His mind was racing with thoughts of meeting Sophia and seeing Elena again after 18 years. Angela had flown back to Monaco to handle the media crisis, leaving Louis to face his family alone. The London address Mrs. Rodriguez had given him was in Hammersmith, near the hospital where Elena was receiving treatment. Louis took a taxi through the busy morning traffic, watching the city wake up around him. Somewhere in this massive city, his daughter was probably getting ready for university classes or her nursing studies. The address led to a small apartment building on a quiet street, lined with trees. It was nothing fancy, but it looked clean and safe. Louis paid the taxi driver and stood on the sidewalk, looking up at the windows. His heart was beating so fast he felt dizzy. He had faced the pressure of world championship races, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. What do you say to a daughter you've never met? How do you apologize for 18 years of absence? Louis walked slowly up to the building entrance. The names on the buzzers were handwritten on small cards. He found what he was looking for: E. Vasquez and S. Hamilton Vasquez, Flat 2B. Sophia had kept his last name as part of hers. His heart melted a little at that detail. He pressed the buzzer and waited. A young woman's voice came through the intercom, speaking with a slight Spanish accent mixed with British tones. "Hello." "Hi," Louis said, his voice shaking. "I'm looking for Sophia Hamilton Vasquez." "My name is Louis Hamilton." There was a long silence. Then he heard footsteps running upstairs inside the building. The front door opened, and Louis came face to face with his daughter for the first time. Sophia was beautiful. She was tall like Louis, with his athletic build but more graceful. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she wore scrubs with cartoon bears on them. But it was her eyes that took Louis's breath away. They were exactly like his own, bright, intelligent, and kind. "Oh my God," Sophia whispered, staring at Louis. "You're really here." "Sophia," Louis said softly, "you're so beautiful. You look just like your mother, but you have my eyes," Sophia finished, smiling nervously. "Mom always said I have your eyes." They stood there for a moment, both unsure what to do next. Finally, Sophia stepped back and held the door open. "Mom is upstairs. She's doing her morning physical therapy exercises. This is going to be quite a shock for her." Louis followed Sophia up a narrow staircase to the second floor. The apartment was small but cozy, filled with plants and books. Racing magazines were stacked neatly on a coffee table, and Louis noticed several framed photos of him winning races. Over the years, "Mom," Sophia called softly as they entered the living room. "We have a visitor." Elena appeared in the doorway of the kitchen, moving slowly in her wheelchair. When she saw Louis, she stopped completely. Her hands flew to her mouth, and tears immediately filled her eyes. She was older, of course, but still the same Elena he had fallen in love with 20 years ago. Her dark hair now had silver streaks, and there were lines around her eyes that spoke of years of worry and pain. But her smile was exactly the same. "Louis," she whispered. You found the letter. Louis knelt down beside her wheelchair, so they were at the same eye level. Elena, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry it took me so long. I'm sorry I wasn't here when you needed me. Elena reached out and touched his face gently. You're here now? That's what matters. Sophia brought tea and sat down across from them. Louis noticed she kept glancing between her parents with curiosity, as if she was trying to see the young couple they had once been. How much do you know about me? Louis asked Sophia. Everything, Sophia replied. Mom made sure I understood who my father was. We watched every race together. When you won your first world championship in 2008, Mom cried happy tears. She said, your papa did it, Sophia. He achieved his dream. Louis looked at Elena with amazement. You never tried to contact me, even when things got difficult. Elena shook her head. You were living your dream, Louis. You were becoming the champion I always knew you could be. I wasn't going to take that away from you with guilt or responsibility you hadn't chosen. But the accident, Louis said, his voice full of pain. Mrs. Rodriguez told me about your car crash. You were alone. Sophia had to take care of everything by herself. Sophia spoke up. I wasn't alone. Mom taught me to be strong. And I always knew that somewhere in the world, my father was fighting his own battles on the racing track. That gave me strength too. Louis was amazed by his daughter's maturity. At 18, she spoke with wisdom beyond her years. She had sacrificed her own young adulthood to care for her injured mother, but there was no bitterness in her voice. Only love and determination. What are you studying? Louis asked Sophia. Pediatric nursing, Sophia replied, her eyes lighting up. I want to work with children who have disabilities or chronic illnesses. After seeing what Mom went through with her rehabilitation, I realized how important it is to have medical professionals who really care about their patients. Elena smiled proudly. She volunteers at the Children's Hospital on weekends. The kids love her. She has your competitive spirit, Louis, but she uses it to help others instead of winning races. Louis felt his heart swell with pride. His daughter was not only beautiful and intelligent, but she was also compassionate and dedicated to helping others. Elena had raised an incredible young woman. I want to help, Louis said suddenly. I want to pay for Sophia's education, for your medical bills, for anything you need. Both Elena and Sophia looked uncomfortable. Sophia shook her head firmly. We're doing fine, Sophia said. Mom gets disability payments, and I have a part-time job at the hospital. We don't need charity. It's not charity, Louis said. I'm your father. I should have been supporting you all along. Elena reached out and took Louis's hand. Louis, we appreciate the offer, but Sophia and I have built a good life here. We're independent. We're happy. What we need from you isn't money. Then what? Louis asked. Sophia looked at her mother, then back at Louis. Time, she said simply. We want to get to know you. The real you, not the famous racing driver. We want to understand who Lewis Hamilton is when he's not wearing a helmet. Louis spent the next 3 hours talking with Elena and Sophia. They showed him photo albums of Sophia's childhood, her first day of school, her graduation, her volunteer work at the hospital. Elena told him about her career as a freelance journalist, writing articles about social issues and healthcare. They talked about Louis's racing career, but also about his activism work and his efforts to promote diversity in motorsport. Sophia was particularly interested in his environmental initiatives. You use your platform to make the world better, Sophia said. That's what I want to do too, just in a different way. As the afternoon wore on, Louis began to see how much Elena and Sophia were alike, but also how much Sophia reminded him of himself. She had his determination and focus, but she had chosen to use those qualities to heal people instead of racing against them. When it was time for Louis to leave, he felt torn. He wanted to stay longer, to learn everything about his daughter's life, to make up for 18 years of missed conversations. Can I see you again tomorrow? Louis asked. Of course, Elena said. You're always welcome here. Sophia walked Louis to the door. As he was about to leave, she touched his arm gently. Louis, she said quietly, so Elena couldn't hear. There's something else you need to know about the accident. It wasn't random. Someone wanted to hurt Mom, and it wasn't about her journalism work. Louis turned back to face his daughter. What do you mean? Sophia looked around nervously, then leaned closer. To Louis. The accident happened because of you. Someone found out about us. Someone threatened Mom to keep quiet about being your ex-girlfriend and having your daughter. When she wouldn't disappear completely, they tried to silence her permanently. Louis felt his blood turn cold. The threatening text messages suddenly made sense. Someone had been watching Elena and Sophia for years. Someone had hurt his family to protect some kind of secret. Who? Louis asked urgently. Who threatened your mother? We don't know, Sophia whispered. But they're still out there. And now that you're here, I'm afraid they might try to hurt us again. Louis felt his world tilt sideways. Someone had tried to kill Elena because of their connection to him. His legs felt weak, and he leaned against the doorframe for support. Sophia, we need to talk properly about this, Louis said, his voice barely a whisper. Can we sit down? Sophia looked back toward the living room where Elena was reading a book. Not here. Mom doesn't know I've been investigating the accident. She thinks it was just bad luck. I don't want to worry her more than she already is. Then where? Louis asked. There's a small cafe down the street. We can talk there. Sophia grabbed her jacket and called to Elena. Mom, I'm going for a walk with Louis. We'll be back in an hour. Elena smiled and waved them off. Take your time. You two have a lot to catch up on. The cafe was nearly empty in the late afternoon. Louis and Sophia sat in a corner booth, away from the few other customers. Sophia ordered tea while Louis got coffee, though his hands were shaking too much to drink it. Tell me everything, Louis said. Sophia took a deep breath. It started about 3 years ago, in 2022. Mom was getting strange phone calls. Someone with a disguised voice would call and hang up. Then she started receiving letters with no return address. What did the letters say? At first, they were just warnings. Stay quiet about the past, or some secrets should remain buried. Mom thought it was probably some crazy fan who had somehow found out about your relationship years ago. Louis clenched his fists. Why didn't she call me? Why didn't she go to the police? She did go to the police, but they said there wasn't enough evidence to do anything. The letters weren't directly threatening, and the phone calls were untraceable. Sophia stirred her tea nervously. As for calling you, Mom said, you had your own life. She didn't want to drag you into some stalker situation. What happened next? The messages got more specific. The person knew details about our life that only someone watching us could know. They knew I was studying nursing. They knew what time Mom went to work. They knew our daily routines. Louis felt sick to his stomach. His family had been living in fear while he was racing around the world, completely unaware. Then, in early 2022, the messages changed, Sophia continued. Instead of just telling Mom to stay quiet, they started demanding that we disappear completely. The person wanted us to move away from Barcelona, change our names, and never mention you again. But you didn't move until after the accident. Right. Mom refused to be bullied. She said she had built a life in Barcelona, and she wasn't going to run away from some coward who hid behind anonymous letters. Sophia pulled out her phone and showed Louis several photos she had taken of the threatening letters. Louis read them with growing anger. The messages were cruel and specific, mentioning Sophia by name and describing Elena's daily activities in disturbing detail. The night of the accident, Mom had received a phone call earlier that day. The person said if she didn't leave Barcelona within a week, there would be consequences. What happened that night? Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she remembered. Mom was driving home from a meeting with her editor. She was working on a story about healthcare funding. It was raining and the roads were slippery. Louis reached across the table and took Sophia's hand. She squeezed his fingers tightly before continuing. Another car came up behind her very fast. The driver started ramming into the back of Mom's car, trying to push her off the road. Mom tried to get away, but the other car was bigger and faster. Did she see who was driving? No. The car had tinted windows, and it was dark, but she said it felt deliberate. The other driver wasn't trying to pass her or overtake her. They were trying to hurt her. Louis closed his eyes and imagined Elena, alone and terrified, being chased by someone who wanted to destroy his family. The guilt was overwhelming. The other car finally managed to push Mom's car into a tree. The impact broke her spine in 2 places. She was unconscious for 3 days. And the other driver? Gone. By the time the ambulance and police arrived, there was no sign of the other car. The police said it was probably a drunk driver who panicked and fled the scene. Sophia wiped her eyes and showed Louis more photos on her phone. These were pictures of the crash scene, the damaged car, and medical reports from the hospital. But you don't think it was a drunk driver. No, the damage to Mom's car was too specific. The other car hit her in exactly the right places to cause maximum damage. And after the accident, the threatening letters stopped completely. Lewis studied the photos carefully. Even though he wasn't an expert, the damage did look deliberate. Someone had planned this attack carefully. Have you told the police about your suspicions? Sophia shook her head. Mom made me promise not to. She said we had no proof, and she was afraid that talking about it would make things worse. She just wanted to focus on her recovery and getting our lives back to normal. But you've been investigating on your own. Yes, I've been trying to figure out who could have known about our connection to you. The threatening letters mentioned specific details about your career, about races you had won, about your activism work. This wasn't just some random person. Sophia pulled out a small notebook and showed Lewis pages of notes she had made. She had created timelines of the threatening messages, researched the phone numbers, and even tried to analyze the handwriting on the letters. You're quite the detective, Lewis said, impressed by his daughter's thoroughness. I learned from the best. Mom taught me how to research and investigate stories. I've been using those skills to try to find whoever hurt her. Have you found anything? Maybe. The letters were always postmarked from different cities, but they followed a pattern. Whoever sent them was traveling frequently, always to places where Formula One races were happening. Lewis looked at Sophia's timeline more carefully. She was right. The letters had been sent from Monaco, Barcelona, Silverstone, Monza, and other racing cities, always within a few days of when Lewis had been racing there. So this person was following the Formula One circuit. Exactly. And they knew enough about your personal life to know about Mom and me, even though we had kept our existence secret for years. Lewis felt a chill run down his spine. Sophia, this means the person threatening your family is someone in the racing world. Someone who has access to my personal information and someone who travels with the Formula One circus. That's what I think too. But it could be anyone, a journalist, a team member, a rival driver, even someone who works for the racing organization. Lewis thought about all the people who had been part of his life over the years. Mechanics, engineers, managers, media people, other drivers. The list was huge, and many of them had access to his personal files and travel schedules. There's something else, Sophia said quietly. The person who sent those threatening messages, they knew about the letter Mom hid in your trophy room. Lewis looked up sharply. What do you mean? In one of the last letters before the accident, they wrote, even if Lewis finds your pathetic letter, it won't matter. Some secrets are worth killing for. Lewis's blood ran cold. The mysterious text messages he had been receiving made perfect sense now. Someone had been watching him, waiting for him to find Elena's letter. They had known this reunion would happen eventually. Sophia, I think whoever hurt your mother is still watching us. I've been getting threatening text messages since I found the letter. Sophia's face went pale. What did they say? Lewis showed her the messages on his phone. Sophia read them with growing fear. They know you're here in London. They know you found us. Sophia looked around the cafe nervously. What if they try to hurt Mom again? What if they try to hurt you? Lewis reached across the table and took both of Sophia's hands in his. I won't let anyone hurt you or your mother ever again. We're going to find out who did this, and we're going to make sure they can never threaten our family again. How? I have resources, Sophia. Security teams, private investigators, lawyers. We're going to hunt down this person and get justice for what they did to Elena. Sophia looked uncertain. Mom won't like it. She just wants to move on with her life. Then we'll be careful. We'll investigate quietly, without worrying her. But I promise you, whoever tried to destroy our family is going to pay for what they did. As they prepared to leave the cafe, Lewis's phone buzzed with another text message. This time, the threat was more direct, touching reunion at the cafe. But if you think this story stays private, you're wrong. Check tomorrow's headlines. Hope you're ready for the storm. Lewis showed the message to Sophia, and her face went white with fear. They're watching us right now, she whispered. They know we've been talking about the accident. Lewis looked around the cafe and out the windows, but he didn't see anyone suspicious. Whoever was threatening his family was very good at staying hidden. We need to get back to your mother, Lewis said. And tomorrow, I'm calling my security team. This ends now. Lewis and Sophia rushed back to the apartment. both checking over their shoulders every few steps. The threatening text message had made it clear that someone was watching their every move. When they reached Elena's flat, Louis immediately checked all the windows and door locks. "What's wrong?" Elena asked, noticing their worried faces. "You both look like you've seen a ghost." Sophia kissed her mother's forehead and sat down beside her wheelchair. "Everything's fine, Mom. We just had a lot to talk about." Louis admired how Sophia protected her mother from worry, but he knew they couldn't keep the truth hidden much longer. If someone was planning to expose their story in the newspapers, Elena needed to be prepared. That night, Louis stayed in a hotel near the apartment. He called his security team leader, Marcus Webb, and explained the situation. Marcus promised to have bodyguards watching Elena and Sophia's building by morning. Louis barely slept. He kept checking his phone for news alerts, waiting for the promised media storm. At 6 in the morning, his phone started buzzing with calls from reporters, photographers, and gossip websites. Angela called from Monaco, her voice full of panic. "Louis, it's everywhere. Every newspaper in Europe has the story. They're calling it the biggest Formula One scandal in years." Louis grabbed his laptop and searched for his name online. The headlines made his stomach sick. Lewis Hamilton's secret daughter revealed. F1 champion hid family for 18 years. Hamilton's ex breaks her silence. But as Louis read the articles, he realized something was wrong. The stories weren't accurate. They described Elena as a gold digger who had hidden her pregnancy to cash in on Louis's fame later. They suggested Sophia was now seeking money from her famous father. The worst article included old photos of Elena and Louis from 2005, but the story claimed Elena had tried to blackmail Louis throughout his career. It painted Sophia as a spoiled teenager demanding expensive gifts and a luxury lifestyle. Louis was furious. None of it was true. Elena had never asked him for money. Sophia had refused his offers to help with her education. But the lies were spreading across social media faster than the truth ever could. By 8 in the morning, reporters were camping outside Elena and Sophia's apartment building. Louis could see them from his hotel window, dozens of photographers with long camera lenses pointing at every window. Louis called Sophia immediately. "Are you and your mother okay?" "We're trapped," Sophia said, her voice shaking. "There are reporters everywhere. They're shouting questions about money and asking if I've been secretly meeting with you for years. Don't go outside. Don't answer the door. My security team is on the way." Louis grabbed his jacket and headed toward the apartment, but his phone rang before he could leave the hotel. It was Angela again. "Louis, don't go over there. The photographers will get pictures of you with Sophia and Elena. That will just make the story bigger. I can't leave them alone to deal with this mess." The Mercedes team is furious. Sponsors are calling asking questions. The Formula One organization wants a statement. This is becoming a crisis for your entire career. Louis felt torn between protecting his family and managing his professional life. But as he looked out the window at the reporters surrounding Elena's building, his choice was clear. "Angela, I don't care about the sponsors or the team right now. My family is being attacked by lies. That's more important than any racing contract." Louis hung up and headed toward Elena's apartment, ignoring the photographers who started following him from the hotel. When he reached the building, the crowd of reporters surrounded him immediately. "Louis, why did you hide your daughter for 18 years? Is it true that Elena tried to blackmail you? How much money are you giving Sophia now?" Louis pushed through the crowd without answering any questions. His security team had arrived and helped clear a path to the building entrance. Upstairs, Elena and Sophia were watching the news coverage on television. Elena looked shocked and hurt by the false stories about her character. Sophia was angry, her hands clenched into fists. "How can they write such lies?" Sophia demanded. "They're making Mum sound like some kind of criminal." Elena wheeled her chair closer to the window and looked down at the crowd of reporters. "I knew this would happen eventually. This is why I never contacted you, Louis. I knew your world would never understand our choice." Louis knelt beside Elena's wheelchair. "I'm going to fix this. I'm going to tell them the truth about what really happened." "No," Elena said firmly. "That will just make it worse. Let them write their stories. Eventually, they'll find something else to talk about." But Sophia had a different idea. She pulled out her phone and started typing. "I'm going to post our real story on social media. People need to know the truth." Louis and Elena watched as Sophia crafted a powerful message explaining their situation. She wrote about Elena's strength as a single mother, about Louis's ignorance of their existence, and about their family's desire for privacy and respect. Sophia's post was honest and dignified. She didn't attack the reporters or complain about the media attention. Instead, she simply told their story with grace and asked for understanding. "My mother raised me to be proud of my father, even though he didn't know I existed," Sophia wrote. "She taught me that Lewis Hamilton is a champion not just because he wins races, but because he uses his platform to make the world better. I've always been proud to carry his name, and I hope someday to make a difference in the world just like he has." The post was shared thousands of times within hours. Comments poured in from Formula One fans, other drivers, and people around the world who were moved by Sophia's maturity and Elena's sacrifice. Sebastian Vettel, Lewis's former rival and friend, posted his own message of support. "Family is everything. Respect their privacy and their choices." Daniel Ricciardo wrote, "Sophia sounds like an incredible young woman. Elena raised a champion." Even some of the harsh newspaper editors began changing their tone. Sophia's genuine message had shifted the narrative from scandal to admiration. That evening, Lewis, Elena, and Sophia had dinner together while reporters still waited outside. Despite the chaos, there was something beautiful about finally being together as a family. "You handled this perfectly," Lewis told Sophia. "You showed more wisdom than most adults twice your age." Sophia smiled, but Lewis could see she was exhausted by the attention. "I just want people to understand that we're normal people. We're not looking for fame or money. We just want to be a family." Elena reached across the table and took Lewis's hand. "Maybe some good will come from this. Maybe other families in similar situations will see that it's possible to reunite and move forward." As they talked, Lewis realized something important. His daughter had inherited his competitive spirit, but she used it differently. Instead of trying to win races, Sophia was fighting for her family's dignity. Instead of seeking trophies, she was working to heal people and make the world better. Lewis's phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, he worried it was another threat. But this time, the message was from Marcus Webb, his security team. "Leader, we've identified the person sending the threatening messages. You're not going to believe who it is." Lewis looked at Elena and Sophia, who were laughing together over something on Sophia's phone. Tomorrow, he would deal with whoever had been terrorizing his family. Tonight, he just wanted to enjoy being with the two most important people in his world. But even as they shared this peaceful moment, Lewis knew the real confrontation was still coming. Someone had tried to destroy his family, and tomorrow he would finally learn who had been hiding in the shadows all these years. The next morning, Lewis met Marcus Webb at a secure location across London. Marcus was a former police detective who had been protecting celebrities and athletes for 15 years. His team had worked through the night to trace the threatening messages and investigate the pattern of letters Elena had received. "You're going to want to sit down for this," Marcus said, placing a thick folder on the table between them. "The person who's been terrorizing your family isn't some random stalker or jealous fan." Lewis opened the folder and saw surveillance photos, phone records, and financial documents. At the top of the pile was a photo that made his blood run cold. It showed a man he knew well, Marcus Thompson, who had worked as Lewis's personal assistant. From 2020 to 2022, Marcus Thompson, Lewis said, staring at the photo in disbelief. "But he worked for me. I trusted him with everything. That's exactly why he was so dangerous," Marcus Webb explained. "Thompson had access to your personal files, your travel schedules, and your private information. He knew about Elena and Sophia because he found old documents in your Monaco apartment." Lewis remembered Marcus Thompson clearly. He was a quiet man in his 30s who had been recommended by Lewis's management company. Thompson had organized Lewis's schedule, managed his personal appointments, and even had keys to his homes in Monaco and London. "How did you identify him?" The threatening text messages were sent from burner phones, but Thompson made one mistake. He used his personal credit card to buy one of the phones. When we traced that purchase, everything else fell into place. Marcus Webb showed Lewis more evidence. Bank records proved Thompson had been in Barcelona, Monaco, and other cities exactly when the threatening letters were sent to Elena. Phone records showed calls from Thompson's personal number to the numbers that had harassed Elena. "But why?" Lewis asked. Why would he want to hurt Elena and Sophia? Money and jealousy, Marcus Webb replied. Thompson was stealing from you, Lewis. Small amounts at first, money for fake expenses, payments to companies that didn't exist. When you fired him in 2022 for selling information to tabloid newspapers, he lost his easy source of income. Lewis felt sick. He had fired Thompson after discovering he was leaking stories about Lewis's private life to gossip magazines. But Lewis had never imagined Thompson would target his family in revenge. Thompson discovered Elena and Sophia's existence. While going through your old files, Marcus Webb continued, he realized this information was worth a lot of money to the right media outlets. But he also saw an opportunity for something bigger. Marcus Webb showed Lewis recordings that his team had obtained. Thompson's voice was clear on the audio files, making threats to Elena and demanding money to keep quiet about her connection to Lewis. He was blackmailing Elena. Lewis asked, for over 2 years. Thompson demanded payments to keep your family's existence secret. When Elena couldn't pay anymore, he escalated to physical threats. Lewis listened to the recordings with growing rage. Thompson's voice was cold and cruel as he threatened Elena and Sophia. In one recording, Thompson clearly stated his plan to remove the problem permanently if Elena didn't disappear. The car accident wasn't random, Marcus Webb confirmed. Thompson hired someone to force Elena off the road. He wanted to kill her to silence her forever. Lewis stood up and began pacing around the room. Someone he had trusted, someone who had been in his home and around his personal belongings, had tried to murder the mother of his child. Where is Thompson now? That's the problem. He's disappeared. After the media stories broke yesterday, Thompson realized we were closing in on him. He's been planning an escape route for months. Marcus Webb showed Lewis bank records indicating Thompson had been moving money to offshore accounts. He had also obtained false identification documents and purchased plane tickets to several different countries. But we'll find him, Marcus Webb assured Lewis. My team has contacts in international law enforcement. Thompson can't hide forever. Lewis thought about Elena and Sophia, who were still trapped in their apartment by reporters. They didn't know the full truth about Thompson yet, and Lewis wasn't sure how to tell them that their nightmare had been caused by someone from his own inner circle. There's more, Marcus Webb said quietly. Thompson wasn't working alone. Lewis sat back down, bracing himself for another shock. Thompson had help from someone else in the Formula One world, someone who knew your schedule and could provide information about your movements. Marcus Webb pulled out another photo. This one showed Thompson meeting with someone in a Monaco cafe. The second person's back was to the camera, but Lewis could see they were wearing expensive clothes and a watch that looked familiar. We haven't identified the second person yet, but Thompson's phone records show regular contact with someone connected to your racing team or management company. Lewis felt his trust in everyone around him crumbling. First Thompson, and now someone else from his professional life had been involved in threatening his family. The police are involved now, Marcus Webb said. Thompson will be arrested for attempted murder, blackmail, and stalking. But Lewis, you need to be careful. If his partner realizes we're closing in, they might try to destroy evidence or disappear too. Lewis's phone rang. It was Sophia calling from the apartment. Lewis, you need to come quickly, Sophia said, her voice full of fear. Someone broke into our apartment last night. They went through all of Mom's papers and took her computer. Lewis felt his heart stop. Are you and Elena okay? We're fine. We weren't here. We stayed at Mrs. Patterson's apartment next door because of all the reporters. But whoever broke in knew exactly what they were looking for. Lewis looked at Marcus Webb, who had heard the conversation. Thompson or his partner is trying to destroy evidence, Marcus Webb said. We need to get to Elena and Sophia immediately. As they rushed toward the apartment, Lewis called Elena directly. Elena, don't touch anything in the apartment. Don't clean up or move anything. The police need to see exactly what the intruder was looking for. Lewis, what's going on? Sophia said you found out who sent those threatening letters. Lewis took a deep breath. Elena, the person who hurt you was someone I trusted. Someone who worked for me. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. Lewis, this is not your fault. You didn't know this person was dangerous. But Lewis felt responsible. Anyway, he had brought Thompson into his life, and Thompson had used that access to terrorize Lewis's family for years. When Lewis and Marcus Webb arrived at the apartment building, police cars were already there. Detective Inspector Sarah Chun was examining the broken door and searching for fingerprints. Whoever did this was professional, Detective Chun told Lewis. They picked the lock without damaging it, searched systematically, and took only specific items. This wasn't a random burglary. Elena and Sophia were sitting in the neighbor's apartment, both looking shaken but determined. When Sophia saw Lewis, she ran to him and hugged him tightly. "I'm scared," Sophia whispered. "What if they come back?" Lewis held his daughter close. "They won't hurt you again. I promise. We know who's been threatening your family, and we're going to stop them." Elena wheeled her chair closer to Lewis. "Tell us everything." Lewis sat down and explained about Marcus Thompson, showing them the evidence. Marcus Webb had gathered. Elena's face grew pale as she realized the person who had tried to kill her was someone from Lewis's inner circle. "He had photos of our apartment," Elena said quietly. "He knew our daily routine because he was getting information from someone close to you." Sophia looked at the evidence with her investigative mind. "The person who helped Thompson, they're still out there. They know we've identified Thompson, so they're trying to destroy any evidence that connects them to him." Lewis realized his daughter was right. Thompson's partner was still free, still dangerous, and still had access to information about Lewis's life. Detective Chin finished examining the apartment and came to speak with the family. "We've found evidence that the intruder was looking for specific documents, anything related to the threatening letters or payments Thompson demanded." "Did they find what they were looking for?" Lewis asked. Sophia smiled for the first time that day. "No. Mom and I hid the most important evidence somewhere safe. We learned not to trust anyone after the threat started." Elena nodded. "We have copies of all the letters, recordings of phone calls, and bank records showing Thompson's demands for money. Everything is stored in a safety deposit box across town." Lewis felt proud of Elena and Sophia's intelligence and preparation. Even while being terrorized, they had been smart enough to protect the evidence that would eventually bring their attacker to justice. But as they talked, Lewis's phone buzzed with another message from an unknown number. "Thompson was careless. But I'm not. Stop investigating, or your family's safety deposit box might have an unfortunate accident. Some secrets are worth killing for." Lewis showed the message to Detective Chun and Marcus Webb. The threat was clear. Thompson's partner was still watching them, still dangerous, and still determined to keep their identity secret. "We need to get that evidence from the safety deposit box immediately," Detective Chin said. "And then we need to put your family in protective custody until we catch Thompson's partner." Lewis looked at Elena and Sophia. After 18 years of separation, they were finally together as a family. But now they faced a new threat from someone still hiding in the shadows of Lewis's professional life. The real confrontation was still coming. 2 weeks had passed since the break-in at Elena and Sophia's apartment. The police had moved the family to a safe house in central London while they searched for Marcus Thompson and his mysterious partner. Lewis had been staying at the safe house too, finally getting to spend real time with his daughter and Elena. During those 2 weeks, Lewis learned things about Sophia that filled his heart with pride. She woke up early every morning to help Elena with her physical therapy exercises. She studied her nursing textbooks late into the night, preparing for her final exams. She cooked healthy meals for all of them and somehow made the cramped safe house feel like a home. But Sophia had also made an unusual request. The Spanish Grand Prix was scheduled for the weekend, and she wanted to attend the race with Elena. "I've watched you on television my whole life," Sophia said to Lewis over breakfast. "But I've never seen you race in person. I want to be there, cheering for you like a real daughter." Lewis was worried about their safety. Even with police protection, bringing Elena and Sophia to a crowded racing event seemed dangerous. But Detective Chun had an idea. "The circuit has excellent security," she explained. "And we think Thompson's partner might reveal themselves if they see your family at the race. Sometimes the best way to catch someone is to give them what they want." So Lewis arranged for Elena and Sophia to attend the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. It felt meaningful to bring them to Barcelona, the city where Sophia had grown up and where Elena had hidden their secret for so many years. But Sophia had another surprise. She didn't want to just watch the race as a spectator. She had contacted the circuit's medical team and volunteered to help them during the race weekend. "I'm training to be a nurse," Sophia explained to Dr. Martinez, the head of medical services at the track. "I want to learn how motorsport medicine works." Dr. Martinez was impressed by Sophia's knowledge and dedication. She had studied emergency medicine on her own and understood how to treat racing injuries. He agreed to let her work with the medical team during practice sessions. Lewis watched from the Mercedes garage as Sophia worked in the medical center. She helped treat a mechanic who had burned his hand on a hot exhaust pipe. She comforted a young fan who had fallen and scraped his knee. She even assisted when a Formula 2 driver needed stitches after a minor crash. "She's a natural," Dr. Martinez told Lewis. "Sophia has the perfect temperament for emergency medicine. She stays calm under pressure and really cares about her patients." Elena, despite being in her wheelchair, was having her own wonderful time. She had returned to journalism for the weekend, writing an article about the medical team's work for a healthcare magazine. It was her first professional assignment since the accident, and Lewis could see how happy it made her to be working again. "This feels like the old days," Elena told Lewis as they watched practice sessions together. "Except now I'm writing about the people who keep drivers safe instead of just watching the racing." Lewis was having one of his best weekends in years. Having Elena and Sophia at the track felt like coming home. Other drivers' families welcomed them warmly. Sebastian Vettel's wife brought Elena flowers. Daniel Ricciardo spent an hour talking with Sophia about her nursing studies. But the best moment came during Saturday qualifying. Lewis was having trouble with his car's setup and was struggling for speed. As he sat in the Mercedes garage, feeling frustrated, he heard a familiar voice on his radio. It was Sophia, speaking from the medical center. "Papa, you've got this. Mom and I are watching every lap. We believe in you." Lewis smiled inside his helmet. It was the first time Sophia had called him Papa. The word gave him more energy than any victory ever had. He went out for his final qualifying run and drove like a man possessed. Every corner was perfect. Every braking point was exactly right. He secured pole position for Sunday's race, his first pole in over a year. After qualifying, Lewis found Sophia and Elena in the medical center. He hugged them both tightly, not caring who was watching or taking photos. "That was for you too," Lewis said. "Everything I do from now on is for our family." Sophia was glowing with pride. "I can't believe my father just won pole position at the Spanish Grand Prix. Tomorrow, you're going to win the race too." Elena squeezed Lewis's hand. "Win or lose, we're proud of you. But Sophia's right. You're going to win tomorrow." That evening, the family had dinner together in Lewis's hotel room. They talked about Sophia's future plans, Elena's recovery progress, and Lewis's dreams beyond racing. For the first time in weeks, they felt safe and happy, but their peaceful evening was interrupted by a knock at the door. Lewis opened it to find Detective Chun with a serious expression on her face. "We've found Marcus Thompson," she said. "He's here in Barcelona, and we think he's planning something for tomorrow's race." Lewis felt his blood run cold. "How did he get here? I thought he had fled the country." "He came back specifically for this weekend. We think he wants to make one final move against your family while you're all together and distracted by the race." Elena moved her wheelchair closer to Lewis and Sophia. "What kind of move?" Detective Chun showed them surveillance photos of Thompson near the circuit. He had been watching the track, studying the security arrangements, and asking questions about where Lewis's family would be sitting during the race. "We think Thompson plans to either kidnap Sophia and Elena or hurt them publicly during the race broadcast," Detective Chun explained. "He wants to destroy your reputation and your family at the same time." Sophia looked scared for the first time since Lewis had met her. "Maybe we shouldn't go to the race tomorrow." But Lewis shook his head. "No, I'm not going to let Marcus Thompson steal this moment from us. This is your first time watching me race in person. We're not going to hide." Elena agreed. "We've been hiding from this man for years. It's time to face him and end this once and for all." Detective Chun nodded. "That's what I was hoping you'd say. We have a plan to catch Thompson tomorrow, but we need your help to make it work." The plan was risky, but simple. Elena and Sophia would attend the race as planned, but with heavy security protection. If Thompson tried to approach them, police would be ready to arrest him immediately. Lewis would race normally, trying to win while his family was in potential danger. It would be the most challenging race of his career, but also the most important. They prepared for bed. Sophia came to Lewis's room one more time. "Are you worried about tomorrow?" she asked. Lewis sat down beside his daughter on the hotel bed. "I'm worried about you and your mother, but I'm not worried about the race." I have something to race for now that's more important than any championship. What's that? Lewis smiled and hugged Sophia. I'm racing for my family. I'm racing to show you and Elena that we're stronger than anyone who tries to hurt us. And I'm racing to prove that love always wins in the end. Sophia hugged him back tightly. I love you, Papa. I love you too, Sophia. Tomorrow, win or lose, we're going to be free. As Lewis went to sleep that night, he knew the next day would bring the final confrontation with Marcus Thompson. But he also knew that whatever happened, he would never let anyone threaten his family again. The race weekend had brought them together. Tomorrow's race would set them free. Race day dawned bright and sunny over the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Lewis woke up early and found Elena and Sophia already having breakfast in the hotel dining room. Sophia was reading her nursing textbook while Elena worked on her laptop, finishing her article about motorsport medical teams. Big day today, Elena said, looking up at Lewis with a mixture of excitement and worry. Lewis sat down beside them and ordered coffee. His hands were steadier than he expected. Despite knowing that Marcus Thompson was somewhere in Barcelona planning to hurt his family, Lewis felt calm. For the first time in his racing career, he knew exactly what he was fighting for. How are you feeling, Papa? Sophia asked, closing her textbook. Lewis smiled at hearing Papa again. Ready. The car felt perfect yesterday, and I have the best team in the world cheering for me today. At the circuit, police officers dressed as race fans mingled with the crowd. Detective Chun coordinated security from a hidden command center, watching for any sign of Thompson. Elena and Sophia were given special passes that allowed them to move between the medical center and the family viewing area. During the driver's parade, Lewis spotted Elena and Sophia in the crowd. Sophia was wearing a Mercedes team shirt with Hamilton on the back. Elena had a small British flag painted on her cheek. They waved at him with huge smiles, and Lewis felt his heart swell with love and pride that in the Mercedes garage. Lewis's engineer briefed him on strategy for the race. But Lewis found it hard to concentrate on tire compounds and fuel loads. All he could think about was keeping his family safe. Lewis, you seem distracted, his race engineer said. Everything okay? Lewis looked toward the medical center where Sophia was helping Dr. Martinez prepare for the race. Actually, I've never been more focused in my life. As the race start approached, Detective Chin's voice crackled through Lewis's security team's radios. We've spotted Thompson near the main grandstand. He's wearing a marshal's uniform and trying to get close to the family viewing area. Lewis felt his stomach tighten, but he forced himself to stay calm. The police had expected this. Thompson's plan was to disguise himself as circuit personnel to get close to Elena and Sophia. Papa, good luck today, came Sophia's voice through Lewis's radio headset. She was speaking from the medical center, where she would be safest during the race. Thank you, my darling girl. Take care of your mother for me. The formation lap began, and Lewis drove slowly around the circuit, checking his tires and brakes. But his eyes kept searching the grandstands for any sign of danger. He had to trust that Detective Chun and her team would protect his family while he focused on racing. The race start was perfect. Lewis held his pole position and began building a lead over the other drivers. For the first 20 laps, everything went according to plan. Lewis was driving with precision and confidence, while Elena and Sophia watched safely from the medical center. But on lap 25, everything changed. Thompson had somehow gotten past security and was approaching the medical center. He was no longer wearing a marshal's uniform. Now he was dressed as a doctor with a fake medical badge and clipboard. Sophia spotted him first. She recognized Thompson from the surveillance photos Detective Chun had shown them. He was walking directly toward where Elena was sitting, and he had something concealed under his medical coat. Security alert, Sophia said quietly into her radio, not wanting to panic the other medical staff. The suspect is here. Detective Chin's team moved immediately, but Thompson was already too close to Elena. He pulled out what looked like a medical syringe and grabbed Elena's wheelchair from behind. Nobody move, or Mrs. Vasquez gets hurt, Thompson shouted. The medical center erupted in chaos as staff and fans realized what was happening. Sophia didn't hesitate. She had inherited Lewis's competitive instincts and Elena's fierce protective nature. Thompson was threatening her mother, and Sophia wasn't going to let that happen. She grabbed a medical cart and rolled it directly into Thompson's legs, knocking him off balance. The syringe flew out of his hand and shattered on the floor. "Mom, get away from him!" Sophia shouted, helping Elena wheel her chair to safety. Thompson tried to run, but Detective Chin's officers surrounded him immediately. He was tackled and handcuffed. Within seconds, his plan completely ruined by Sophia's quick thinking and bravery. Meanwhile, Lewis was still racing, unaware of the drama happening in the medical center. His radio crackled with Detective Chin's voice. "Lewis, Thompson has been arrested. Your family is safe." Lewis nearly cried with relief. "Are Elena and Sophia okay?" "They're fine. Actually, Sophia helped catch him. Your daughter is a hero." Lewis crossed the finish line to win the Spanish Grand Prix, his first victory in 2 years. But as he climbed out of his car, all he cared about was seeing his family. He found Elena and Sophia in the medical center, surrounded by police officers and journalists. Sophia was giving a statement to Detective Chun while Elena held her hand. Proudly, "Papa," Sophia called when she saw Lewis enter the room. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. "We got him. Thompson can't hurt us anymore." Lewis held his daughter and felt overwhelming pride. "You protected your mother. You protected our family." Elena wheeled her chair over to join their embrace. "She was so brave, Lewis. When Thompson threatened me, Sophia didn't even think about her own safety. She just acted." Detective Chun approached the family with a smile. "Thompson has confessed to everything. The blackmail, the car accident, the break-in. But there's more good news. We also arrested his partner." Lewis looked up sharply. "Who was helping him?" "Richard Garrett, from your management company. He was feeding Thompson information about your schedule and personal life. Garrett was jealous of your success and wanted to damage your reputation." Lewis felt sick. Richard Garrett had been with his management team for 5 years. Another person Lewis had trusted had betrayed his family. "But it's over now," Detective Chen continued. "Both Thompson and Garrett will go to prison for a long time. Your family is finally safe." That evening, the Hamilton family celebrated together in Lewis's hotel room. The Spanish Grand Prix trophy sat on the table, but Lewis barely looked at it. His attention was focused entirely on Elena and Sophia. "I have something to tell you both," Lewis said as they finished dinner. "I've made a decision about my future." Elena and Sophia looked at him with curiosity. "I'm retiring from Formula One after this season," Lewis announced. "I want to focus on our family and on building something meaningful together." Sophia looked shocked. "But Papa, you love racing. You're still winning races." Lewis smiled and took both Elena's and Sophia's hands. "I do love racing, but I love you two more. I've spent my whole career chasing trophies, but the greatest victory is sitting right here with me." Elena wiped tears from her eyes. "Lewis, are you sure? We don't want you to give up your dreams for us." "You are my dreams," Lewis said simply. "Elena, you gave me the greatest gift in the world when you had Sophia. And Sophia, you've shown me what real courage looks like. I want to spend the rest of my life being the father and partner I should have been all along." Sophia leaned over and hugged Lewis tightly. "I'm so proud to be your daughter, Papa, and I can't wait to build something amazing together." As they sat together that night, Lewis realized this was the moment he had been racing toward his entire life. Not the moment of winning a championship or crossing a finish line first, but the moment when he finally understood what truly mattered. The threats were over. The secrets were revealed. The family was together, and Lewis Hamilton had finally won the race that mattered most. The race to find his way home to the people who loved him. 3 months after the Spanish Grand Prix, Lewis, Elena, and Sophia had settled into a new life. Together in London, Lewis had bought a house near Elena's rehabilitation hospital, and Sophia was excelling in her first semester of medical school at Cambridge University. The media attention had died down, and they were finally able to live as a normal family. Lewis was enjoying his retirement from Formula One. Instead of traveling to racetracks around the world, he spent his days helping Sophia study, attending Elena's physical therapy sessions, and working on plans for their new charitable foundation. They were going to focus on providing medical care to young drivers in developing countries. Elena had regained some strength in her legs and could walk short distances with the help of canes. She was writing a book about their story, hoping to help other families who face similar challenges. Sophia was happier than Lewis had ever seen her, balancing her medical studies with foundation planning. But one cold December morning, their peaceful new life was interrupted by an unexpected phone call. Lewis was making breakfast when his phone rang. The caller ID showed a London law firm he didn't recognize. "Mr. Hamilton? This is James Mitchell from Mitchell & Associates. I'm calling about Elena Vasquez and Sophia Hamilton Vasquez." Lewis felt his stomach drop. Had something happened to Elena or Sophia? "What's wrong? Are they in trouble?" "Oh no, sir. Nothing like that. I'm calling about an inheritance matter. It concerns Elena's father, Carlos Vasquez, who passed away in 2016. Lewis was confused. Elena had told him her father died when Sophia was 10 years old. "I don't understand. What does this have to do with me?" "Mr. Hamilton, Carlos Vasquez left specific instructions that were only to be carried out if you and Elena were ever reunited. He left a sealed letter and a legal document that I'm required to give to your family." Lewis sat down heavily at the kitchen table. Elena's father had known about him all along, but Elena had never mentioned this. "Can you come to our office this afternoon?" Mr. Mitchell asked. "I'll need Elena and Sophia to be present as well." That afternoon, Lewis, Elena, and Sophia sat in the law firm's conference room. Elena looked as confused as Lewis felt. She kept shaking her head and saying she had no idea what this was about. Mr. Mitchell, an elderly man with kind eyes, placed several documents on the table. At the top was a thick envelope with "For Elena, Sophia, and Lewis," to be opened together, written in Spanish. "Your father came to see me in 2015, Mr. Mitchell explained to Elena. "He gave me these documents with very specific instructions. They were only to be given to your family if Lewis Hamilton ever found you and Sophia." Elena stared at the envelope. But Papa never said anything about Lewis. He never even asked about Sophia's father. "Actually, he knew everything," Mr. Mitchell said gently. "Your father had been following Lewis's racing career for years. He kept newspaper clippings, watched every race, and was very proud of his granddaughter's father." Sophia leaned forward. With interest. "My grandfather knew about Lewis the whole time?" Mr. Mitchell nodded and handed Elena the sealed letter. "He wanted me to explain before you read this. Carlos had been saving money for Sophia's education, but he also set up a trust fund that could only be accessed if Lewis took responsibility for being a real father." Lewis felt tears in his eyes. Elena's father, who had died without ever meeting Lewis, had been planning for this reunion for years. Elena opened the letter with shaking hands. It was written in Spanish, but she translated it out loud for Lewis and Sophia. "My dear Elena," she read, "if you are reading this letter, it means Lewis has finally found you and Sophia. I have been waiting for this day since Sophia was born." Elena paused, wiping her eyes. "I knew from the beginning who Sophia's father was. I saw how much you loved him, and I saw how much he loved you, even though he was too young and scared to understand it then." Lewis listened in amazement as Elena continued reading her father's words. "I never told you I knew about Lewis because I wanted you to make your own choices. But I have been watching his career, and I am proud that my granddaughter carries the name of such a good man." Sophia reached over and took Lewis's hand. "Grandfather was proud of you, Papa." Elena continued reading. "Lewis, if you are hearing this, it means you have finally understood what really matters. Racing made you famous, but being a father will make you complete." The letter went on to explain that Carlos had created a trust fund worth £500,000 for Sophia's education and Elena's medical care. But there was a condition. The money could only be used if Lewis promised to be a real father to Sophia and a true partner to Elena. "The money is not a gift," Elena read. "It is an investment in our family's future. Lewis, you have won many trophies, but your greatest victory will be watching Sophia become the doctor she dreams of being." Mr. Mitchell placed another document on the table. It was the trust fund paperwork, along with bank statements showing that Carlos had been saving money for Sophia since she was born. "Your father also left these," Mr. Mitchell said, pulling out a shoebox filled with photos and newspaper clippings. Inside the box were hundreds of pictures of Sophia growing up, mixed with newspaper articles about Lewis's racing victories. Carlos had created a scrapbook showing both his granddaughter's childhood and her father's career, as if he had always known they would someday be together. There were photos of Sophia's first day of school next to articles about Lewis winning the 2008 World Championship. Pictures of Sophia learning to ride a bicycle were paired with stories about Lewis's environmental activism. Photos of Sophia volunteering at the hospital were placed beside articles about Lewis's diversity initiatives. Papa kept track of both of us, Sophia said, looking through the scrapbook with wonder. He knew someday we would be a family. The final item in the box was a letter addressed specifically to Lewis, written in careful English. Lewis, Elena read, I know you will blame yourself for not being there for Sophia's childhood, but I want you to know that you were there in spirit. Every time Sophia watched you in a race, she was watching her father succeed. Every time you used your platform to help others, you were teaching your daughter about courage and compassion. Lewis was crying openly now. A man he had never met had believed in him and had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. You don't need to make up for lost time. Elena continued reading. You just need to be present for the time you have left. Sophia doesn't need a famous father. She needs a loving father. I believe you will be both. The letter ended with Carlos's final wish. Please use this money to help Sophia become the doctor she wants to be. And please take care of my Elena. She has been strong for so long. Now it's your turn to be strong for her. Mr. Mitchell handed Lewis the trust fund documents. Your signature here will transfer the funds to your family. But by signing, you're also agreeing to your father-in-law's conditions. Lewis looked at Elena and Sophia. What do you think? Should we accept your father's gift? Elena smiled through her tears. Papa always said family was the most important thing. This money represents his love for all of us. Sophia nodded. We can use it for my medical school, but also for our foundation work. Grandfather would want us to help other families too. Lewis signed the documents, officially accepting responsibility for his family's future. But more than that, he was accepting the love and faith that Carlos Vasquez had shown him for over a decade as they left the law office. Lewis felt overwhelmed by the generosity of a man he had never met. Carlos had watched Lewis's career from afar and had somehow known that Lewis would eventually find his way home to his family. Your father was an amazing man, Lewis told Elena as they walked to their car. He would have loved you, Elena replied. Actually, I think he did love you, just by watching how proud Sophia was of her father. That evening, the family looked through Carlos's scrapbook together. Every page showed the parallel lives they had been living. Lewis succeeding in his racing career while Sophia grew up strong and kind in Barcelona. It's like grandfather knew this day would come, Sophia said, pointing to a photo of herself as a child, holding a toy racing car next to an article about Lewis winning his first world championship. Lewis realized that Elena's father had given him more than money. He had given him faith that family love could transcend time and distance. Even when Lewis didn't know Sophia existed, she had been connected to him through her grandfather's belief that someday they would be together. The trust fund would help Sophia become a doctor and support Elena's continued recovery. But the real gift was understanding that their family had been blessed by Carlos's love and planning for years. Even when they didn't know it, as Lewis tucked Sophia into bed that night, she looked up at him with curious eyes. Papa, do you think grandfather would be proud of us now? Lewis smiled and kissed his daughter's forehead. I think he's been proud of us all along. He just knew we needed time to find each other. As Lewis turned off the lights, he whispered a quiet, "Thank you," to Carlos Vasquez, the man who had believed in their family's future even when Lewis couldn't see it himself. The final secret had been revealed, and it was the most beautiful secret of all. They had never been alone. Love had been watching over them and preparing their way home to each other. 1 year later, Lewis stood in the garden of their London home, watching Sophia practice sutures on a training mannequin. She was in her second year of medical school at Cambridge and had become one of the top students in her class. Her hands were steady and precise as she worked, just like Lewis's had been when he gripped a steering wheel. Perfect technique, Dr. Martinez called out. He had become Sophia's mentor and was visiting to check on her progress. You have the natural instincts of a surgeon. Sophia smiled proudly and looked toward the house, where Elena was sitting on the porch working on her laptop. Elena's book, Racing Home, a story of love, loss, and second chances, had been published 6 months ago and was already helping families around the world who faced similar challenges. Lewis walked over to join Elena. On the porch, she was reading emails from readers who had been inspired by their story. One message was from a single mother in Brazil whose son was a young racing driver. Another was from a father in India who had reunited with a daughter he hadn't seen in 15 years. "Look at this one," Elena said, showing Lewis her laptop screen. "A woman in Australia says our story gave her the courage to tell her ex-husband about their son. They're meeting next week for the first time in 8 years." Lewis sat down beside Elena and kissed her forehead. "Your book is changing lives." "Our story is changing lives," Elena corrected him. "We're showing people that it's never too late for families to heal." Their charitable foundation, the Hamilton Family Foundation, was now operating in 12 countries. They provided medical care and education support to young drivers from poor families. Sophia spent her summer breaks working with their medical teams, treating everything from broken bones to serious racing injuries. Lewis no longer missed the thrill of competitive racing. Instead, he found excitement in watching Sophia master a difficult medical procedure or seeing Elena take her first steps without canes. Her physical therapy had been so successful that she could now walk short distances on her own. "Papa, come look at this," Sophia called from the garden. Lewis walked over to where Sophia was showing Dr. Martinez a new technique she had developed for treating burns. She had been studying motorsport injuries specifically, hoping to make racing safer for future drivers. "This girl is going to revolutionize emergency medicine," Dr. Martinez told Lewis. "She thinks like a racer but heals like an angel." Sophia blushed at the praise. "I just want to make sure no driver ever has to suffer the way Mom did after her accident." Lewis felt his heart swell with pride. His daughter had taken the pain from Elena's injuries and turned it into motivation to help others. She was using Lewis's competitive spirit and Elena's compassion to build something beautiful. That evening, the family gathered for dinner as they did every night Lewis was in town. He still traveled occasionally for foundation work, but never for more than a few days at a time. Being present for Sophia's education and Elena's recovery was his top priority. "I have news," Sophia announced over dessert. "I've been accepted for a summer internship with Doctors Without Borders. I'll be working in a mobile medical unit in Kenya, treating children in remote villages." Elena clapped her hands together with joy. "Sophia, that's wonderful. You'll learn so much about emergency medicine in challenging conditions." Lewis felt nervous about his daughter traveling to potentially dangerous places, but he also knew this was exactly the kind of work Sophia was meant to do. She had always wanted to help people who had limited access to medical care. "I'm proud of you," Lewis told Sophia, "but promise me you'll be careful. Your mother and I can't lose you now that we've finally found you." Sophia laughed and hugged both her parents. "I'll be fine, Papa. You taught me to be competitive, and Mom taught me to be smart. I can handle anything." After dinner, Lewis and Elena sat together in their living room while Sophia studied upstairs. The walls were covered with photos from the past year, Sophia's medical school graduation ceremony, Elena's first book signing, Lewis receiving an award for his foundation work. "Do you ever miss racing?" Elena asked, curling up beside Lewis on the couch. Lewis thought about the question. "Seriously, I miss the team and I miss the challenge. But I don't miss the loneliness. For 17 years, I was traveling the world but never really going anywhere. Now I feel like I'm finally living instead of just existing." Elena smiled and took his hand. "Carlos was right, you know. Being a father has made you complete. Being your partner has made me complete too," Lewis replied. "I love Sophia more than life itself, but I also love the woman who raised her to be so incredible." Elena and Lewis had grown closer over the past year, rediscovering the love they had shared 20 years earlier. But their relationship was deeper now, built on shared responsibility for Sophia and mutual respect for the sacrifices they had both made. "I have something to tell you," Elena said quietly. "I've been thinking about our future, about what comes next." Lewis looked at her with curiosity. "What do you mean?" "Sophia will graduate from medical school in 3 years. She'll move on to her own career, her own life. What happens to us then?" Lewis had been thinking about the same question. Their family had been brought together by crisis and held together by Sophia's needs. But what would happen when Sophia no longer needed them so intensely? "I know what I want to happen," Lewis said, taking Elena's hands in his. "I want us to grow old together. I want to travel the world with you, working on foundation projects. I want to be grandparents to Sophia's children someday. I want to spend the rest of my life making up for the 20 years we lost." Elena's eyes filled with happy tears. Is that a proposal, Mr. Hamilton? Louis laughed and kissed her softly. Maybe it is. What would you say if it were? I would say yes, Elena whispered. I would say I've been waiting 20 years for you to ask. They held each other quietly, listening to Sophia's footsteps upstairs as she prepared for her medical exams. Their daughter was growing into an independent young woman, but she would always be the center of their family. The next morning, Louis woke up early and found Sophia in the kitchen making breakfast. She was wearing scrubs because she had a shift at the hospital later that day. Morning, Papa, Sophia said, handing him a cup of coffee. Mom told me you two are getting married. Louis nearly choked on his coffee. She told you already? Sophia grinned. She was too excited to keep it secret. I'm happy for you both. It's about time you made it official. Louis hugged his daughter tightly. Are you okay with us getting married? I know it changes our family dynamic. Papa, you and Mom have been my family since the day you found that letter. A wedding just makes it legal. Sophia pulled back and looked at Louis seriously. Besides, I want my children to have married grandparents. It sets a good example. Louis laughed at Sophia's practical approach to romance. Already thinking about children? Not for many years, Sophia said quickly. I have medical school to finish, my internship in Kenya, my residency training. But someday, yes. I want a family like the one we've built together. As Sophia headed off to the hospital and Elena prepared for a physical therapy appointment, Louis sat in their garden thinking about the future. A year ago, he had been a lonely racing driver living in an empty apartment. Now he was a father, a partner, and soon to be a husband. His phone buzzed with a text message from Sebastian Vettel. Saw the engagement announcement in the news. Congratulations. When's the wedding? Louis smiled and typed back. Small ceremony next month. Sophia is planning everything. She says a medical student knows how to organize complicated procedures. That afternoon, Louis, Elena, and Sophia met with a wedding planner Sophia had chosen. She had researched venues, caterers, and photographers with the same thoroughness she applied to her medical studies. I think we should have the ceremony at the hospital where Mom does her physical therapy, Sophia announced. That's where our family really came together. Elena and Louis looked at each other and smiled. Their daughter wanted their wedding to celebrate not just their love, but Elena's recovery and their triumph over the people who had tried to destroy their family. The hospital chapel is beautiful, Elena agreed, and Dr. Martinez has already offered to walk me down the aisle since my father can't be there. Louis felt emotional thinking about Carlos Vasquez, who had planned for this day even though he wouldn't live to see it. Your father will be there in spirit. His love brought us together. As they planned their simple wedding ceremony, Louis realized that this was what Carlos had been preparing for all those years. Not just Louis finding Sophia, but Louis finding his way to the life he was meant to live. The racing trophies in his Monaco apartment had gathered dust, but the family they were building together grew stronger every day. Sophia was becoming the doctor she had always dreamed of being. Elena was inspiring families around the world with her story of resilience. And Louis was finally understanding what it meant to win at the things that really mattered. Their wedding would be small and simple, but it would represent something beautiful, a family that had overcome secrets, threats, and separation to find their way home to each other. As they walked out of the wedding planner's office together, Sophia took both her parents' hands and swung them playfully. I love our family, she said simply. Louis squeezed his daughter's hand and looked at Elena, his soon-to-be wife and the mother of his amazing child. So do I, he said. So do I. December 15th, 2025, exactly 1 year after finding Carlos's trust. Fun letter. Louis, Elena, and Sophia returned to Barcelona for a special anniversary trip. They had come back to where it all began, to the apartment building where Sophia had grown up and where Mrs. Rodriguez still lived. The elderly Spanish woman cried happy tears when she saw the family together. Elena was walking with only one cane now, and Sophia wore her Cambridge University Medical School sweatshirt with pride. Louis carried a photo album filled with pictures from their wedding 6 months earlier. Look how beautiful your family has become, Mrs. Rodriguez said, hugging each of them tightly. Elena, you are glowing with happiness. Sophia, you look like a real doctor already. And Louis, you look like a man who has found his purpose. They sat in Mrs. Rodriguez's small living room, the same place where Louis had first learned about Elena's accident. But now, Instead of fear and worry, the room was filled with laughter and joy. "Tell me everything," Mrs. Rodriguez said, pouring tea for everyone. "I want to hear about the wedding, about Sophia's studies, about your new life together." Sophia pulled out her phone and showed Mrs. Rodriguez hundreds of photos. Their wedding had been perfect, small and intimate, held in the hospital chapel, where Elena had recovered. Dr. Martinez had walked Elena down the aisle. Sebastian Vettel had been Luis's best man. Sophia had been the maid of honor, wearing a dress the exact color of Elena's eyes. The best part was Papa's wedding speech. Sophia said, grinning at Luis. He said he used to think winning races was about crossing the finish line first. But then he learned that real winning was about choosing the right race to run. Elena squeezed Luis's hand. He also said that some victories take 20 years to achieve, but they're worth the wait. Mrs. Rodriguez wiped her eyes as she looked through the wedding photos. Carlos would be so proud of all of you. He always believed this day would come. After tea, they walked together to the small garage behind the apartment building where Sophia had first learned to work on go-karts. Elena's father had taught her basic mechanics there, and Elena had later taught Sophia the same skills. "I want to show you something," Luis said, pulling a tarp off something in the corner of the garage. Underneath was a small, beautifully restored go-kart painted in Mercedes silver with Sophia's name on the side. Luis had been working on it secretly for months, using the same tools Carlos had once used to teach Sophia. "Papa, it's beautiful," Sophia said, running her hands over the smooth paint. "But I'm not racing anymore. I'm focused on medicine now." Luis smiled. "This isn't for racing. This is for joy, for remembering where you came from and who taught you to be strong." Elena moved closer to examine the go-kart. "Papa would have loved this. He always said that working with your hands teaches you patience and precision, skills Sophia uses in surgery now." They spent the afternoon in the garage, with Luis showing Sophia the mechanical improvements he had made. Elena sat nearby, working on her second book about the power of family love. Mrs. Rodriguez brought them sandwiches and watched with a grandmother's pride. "You know," Mrs. Rodriguez said, "Sophia used to sit in this garage when she was little and tell me she would meet her father someday. She said she could feel him out there in the world, racing toward her." Sophia looked up from the go-kart engine. "I remember those conversations. You always told me that love finds a way, even when it seems impossible." That evening, they went to dinner at a small restaurant near Park Güell, the same park where Elena had taken Sophia to play when she was a child. As they walked through the familiar streets, Luis felt the weight of all the years Elena and Sophia had lived here without him. "I'm sorry I missed so much of your childhood," Luis told Sophia as they sat down at their table. Sophia shook her head firmly. "Papa, we've talked about this. You didn't miss my childhood. You were there in every racing magazine Mum bought, in every victory we celebrated together, in every lesson about never giving up. You were there in spirit, teaching me to be strong even when you didn't know I existed." Elena nodded in agreement. "Luis, our love story isn't about the years we were apart. It's about the years we've been together and all the years we have ahead of us." During dinner, Sophia shared exciting news. She had been selected for a special program that would allow her to complete her medical training while working with their foundation. She would spend 6 months each year providing medical care to young drivers in different countries. "It's perfect," Sophia explained. "I get to be a doctor and help our foundation grow at the same time. I'll be combining everything I've learned from both of my parents." Luis felt overwhelmed with pride. His daughter had found a way to use her medical skills to make racing safer, while also helping disadvantaged children around the world. She was going to change lives just like Elena had always dreamed she would. After dinner, they walked to the Barcelona waterfront and sat on a bench overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. The lights of the city reflected on the water, and Sophia pointed out the apartment building where she had grown up. "Sometimes I can't believe how much our lives have changed," Sophia said. 2 years ago, I was a nursing student taking care of Mum and wondering if I would ever meet my father. Now I'm in medical school, Mum is writing best-selling books, and Papa is my best friend." Elena leaned against Luis's shoulder. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had found the letter earlier?" Luis thought about Elena's question as he watched the waves roll against the shore. "No," he said finally. "We all needed to become who we were meant to be first. I needed to learn that racing wasn't everything. Elena needed to prove she could build a beautiful life on her own, and Sophia needed to grow up strong and independent. He paused and looked at his daughter, who was checking medical school messages on her phone while still listening to their conversation. "We found each other exactly when we were supposed to," Lewis continued. Carlos knew that. He planned everything perfectly, even the timing. Sophia looked up from her phone. "Speaking of timing, I have something to tell you both. Remember how I said I wanted to have children someday, but not for many years?" Lewis and Elena both turned to look at Sophia with curiosity. Sophia grinned. "I've been thinking about it more seriously. After I finish my medical training and get established with the foundation work, I want to start a family. I want my children to grow up knowing both their grandparents from the beginning." Elena reached over and took Sophia's hand. "That would be wonderful, darling. You'll be an amazing mother." Lewis felt tears in his eyes. "I can't wait to be a grandfather. I promise I'll be present for every moment of your children's lives." As they sat together watching the sunset over Barcelona, Lewis realized this was the moment he had been unconsciously racing toward his entire life. Not the moment of winning a championship or achieving fame, but this quiet moment with his family, watching his daughter plan her future while sitting beside the woman who had given him his greatest gift. The letter Elena had hidden behind his trophy had led them here, to this perfect evening, to this complete family, to this deep understanding of what really mattered in life. "I love you both so much," Lewis said, pulling Elena and Sophia close to him. "We love you too, Papa," Sophia replied. "Thank you for finding us." Elena kissed Lewis's cheek softly. "Thank you for being worth the wait." As the sun disappeared into the Mediterranean Sea, the Hamilton family sat together in peaceful silence. They had overcome secrets, threats, and 20 years of separation to find their way to this moment. The letter that had started everything was now framed in their London home, a reminder that love doesn't follow timelines or expectations. It simply endures, waiting for the right moment to bloom into something beautiful. Lewis Hamilton had won 7 world championships, but his greatest victory was sitting right beside him, a family that had never stopped believing in him, even when he didn't know they existed. The race was over. Love had won, and they were finally, completely, home. And that was the end of this heartwarming story about Lewis Hamilton finding his way home to a family he never knew existed. Sometimes the greatest victories in life aren't measured by trophies or championships, but by the courage to choose love over everything else. Lewis's decision to retire from Formula One to become the father Sophia always deserved shows us that it's never too late to put family first. That we'd love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments below, where are you listening from around the world? Your location and thoughts always brighten our day. That if this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for many more inspiring stories just like this one. We share real tales of love, family, courage, and second chances that remind us what truly matters in life. Most importantly, please share this video with your friends and family. Stories like Lewis, Elena, and Sophia's have the power to spread kindness and awareness about the importance of family, forgiveness, and never giving up on love. Your share might be exactly what someone needs to hear today to inspire them to reach out to their own family or to never stop believing in second chances. Thank you for being part of our community, and we'll see you in the next story.